Hello, I'm the Eternall Newbie. The extra L is for leaning. As in, the subject of today's story is leaning into some very odd opinions. You know, stuff like thinking women can't be good DMs, or shouldn't even have names, for example. But I don't want to spoil the story, so let's get to it. This happened a few years ago. One of my friends decided to run Curse of Strahd, but we didn't have a group. He asked me to post a looking for group post at our local TPRPG space. We gathered the group and started the game. A few people lost interest in the game right after a few sessions, and only one of them stuck around. Pete. This is a story about him. Persons of interest. Pete. Random who replied to looking for group post. He was playing a girl cleric of light. DM. A friend of mine. Monk. Old friend of DM's. Rogue. Also old friend of DM. She joins us later. Me. I was playing a paladin named Agnes. Everything started as usual. We were traveling with a caravan and got lost in the mist. Standard Curse of Strahd stuff. Everybody seemed chill. We were playing weekly online, and it was common for us to hang out after the game in Discord just to share a few laughs or chat about life. Of course, everyone was invited, so Pete would stick around after the game, but every time we would start discussing D&D in any way, he would say something extremely derogatory about the system. After a few such episodes, I asked him, "Hey, you seem not to enjoy the game. Why are you playing D&D? He confessed that he didn't really like D&D, but nobody wanted to play the system he preferred, powered by the apocalypse. I felt bad for him, and he said it was super fun, much better than D&D, and we all should try it. After a few games, I started to notice a pattern. His character would only speak to mine, like it all, to an extent where he would constantly say, "I want to take Agnes aside to talk." I didn't think about it much. We both were servants of God, so having some kind of a bond made sense. But it went to weird situations where there would only be 3 characters in the room, and he would request for our characters to step outside to talk, leaving Monk out of the conversation. Weird, I thought to myself, but not a red flag. Yet. A few sessions in, we were introduced to our new party member, Rogue. Important to note that Rogue's player is a woman in her early 20s. Her introduction was very cool. Her character, she was playing this brutish tattooed criminal, got brutally murdered in front of our eyes. While this was happening, I texted the DM. "That was cool. Is she playing a phantom rogue?" And he told me to have patience. While the scene was playing out, Pete suddenly blew up and started arguing that the DM was unfair and he didn't even give the poor girl a chance. And that DMs shouldn't kill characters like that. We had to literally calm him down, and Rogue said something like, "Chill, dude, we talked about it." He didn't believe her. This was the first red flag. He didn't trust the DM. I've known DM for a long time by that point, and played in a few of his games, and he was playing in mine. Maybe there's just no way to give this kind of trust to a random person right away. But I have a strong belief that you can't enjoy a game with such a mentality. What for me was a cool interaction, where I immediately understood where the situation was going. Rogue wanted to be risen from the dead. Pete only saw what he called DM tyranny, an abuse of Rogue who, for whatever reason, Pete felt obliged to protect. We continued the game, raised the Rogue from the dead, and finished the session. We talked about the game, about trusting your DM. Pete reminded us that he hates D&D and left. Wow. Always leave on a high note, eh, Pete? I imagine it was something like this. "Okay, maybe what the DM did was okay, but I still hate D&D. Pete, out." Now, I am not super familiar with Powered by the Apocalypse, but I did play a bit of Monster of the Week, which I hear is a PBTA system, and it was a whole lot of fun. I had a character with the ability to make people sick, so whenever someone pissed me off, I gave them herpes. And not in the fun way. It's a good system. But if I hated it, you know what I wouldn't do? Play it. I don't even get what Pete's doing there. I think we've all tried systems we don't particularly care for, and when that happens, we politely tell the DM, "Sorry, the system isn't for me," and we quit. But honestly, so far this one isn't bad. Here's hoping Pete doesn't turn out to be a creep to the new player. Red flag number 2 came up in one of our next games. We gathered in the voice chat, and Rogue was missing. I told the DM that she probably messed up the time because of the time zone, and he should text her. Pete became unusually interested in this detail and started asking what time zone and what is that all about. We told him that she lives in Europe, and he seemed weirdly excited about this information. For the context, Pete was from somewhere where living in Europe was considered prestigious. I didn't pay attention at the time, but Rogue told me after the game that he texted her and said she had a beautiful accent. She had no accent! She immigrated to Europe only a few years prior and was speaking the same language as Pete. He tried hitting on her, and he was like almost 15 years older than her. Creep. The game continued, and his weird behavior persisted. His character was still only talking to mine. He was insisting on us doing weird things like burning children. After one of the sessions, Pete reminded us that he hates D&D and left. I was sitting in the chat with Monk and DM and said, "Hey guys, I don't know how I feel about Pete." Monk started to defend him, saying that he is just a bit not socialized and it will get better. Monk also said that he feels like Pete just doesn't understand the system and we should help him. Monk offered to run a one-shot for me and Pete. It was a one-shot for 2 people and the DM had already played and Rogue was busy with uni. I agreed. Sometime next week we gathered to play Monk's one-shot. It was a well-designed, silly little heist that encouraged creative solutions. We played as 2 pre-made halfling brothers. Their names were Sam and Dean. Oh, Supernatural reference. I really enjoyed it. Pete was struggling a bit, but we managed it. After the game we started to talk, and Pete was like, "You guys should try PBTA. I have a one-shot. Do you want to try it?" Monk persuaded me to join, and we agreed to play next week. This is a red flag number 3, the one-shot. It all started with him messaging me and saying, "In my one-shot, you can choose your character's gender." Okay, I guess? I was just fine playing anything, but sure. I just said that I'm not going to change anything. We joined the one-shot, and it was the exact same one-shot. Characters were the same. Task was the same. Pete also tried to do exactly the same characters, but his setting was low magic, so some features just didn't work. For example, my rogue had a familiar in Monk's one-shot. In Pete's one-shot, I also played a rogue, but with none of the rogue abilities, and had a familiar that couldn't do anything. I asked my familiar to hook a rope on a hook in a tower, and he said it wasn't realistic and familiars couldn't do that. The other thing he was praising his system for and hated D&D was initiative. "My system doesn't have initiative. Initiative is stupid." We went into combat, and I asked to do something, and he said, "It's not your turn." I thought there was no initiative, but what he actually meant was, I decide the order of turns and not the dice. He was trying to show his superior system and decided to rewrite Monk's one-shot and make it better by adding more content. It was simply rude. Hold up. What's with the whole burning children thing? You know what? Never mind. I don't want to know how he would explain that. As we've seen, Pete isn't very original, so he'd probably just reference a movie or something. I do get why he copied Monk's game, though. He wanted to show that given the same story, PBTA was superior to D&D, and wow, did he fail miserably. Not to say PBTA isn't a good system, it is. But when you take something written for a specific set of rules and try to shove it under different rules, odds are it's going to be inferior. Not saying it can't be done, but giving everything we know about Pete, that is not his thing. That's okay, we all have talents. For example, if you need someone to give off major creep vibes, Pete is your guy. We stayed after the one-shot to talk and give feedback. We were just chatting and Pete decided to share a story. He said that he always dreamed of playing with a woman DM, and turns out women are very bad at DMing. I was flabbergasted. I asked him what he meant, and he said that he played with a woman this weekend and she was bad, and he realized that women are just bad at DMing. I thought he can't be serious. It's probably a crude joke. But no. For context, I was running my own game at the time, and he knew about it. Me and Monk started talking to him to try and understand his thinking process. He legit decided that all women are bad at DMing just because he didn't enjoy this one girl's game. I asked him if he understands that women don't share traits like that, and if one woman is bad at a particular thing, that doesn't mean all women are bad too. Like if he would meet a bad DM who's a man, would he think that all men are bad at it? He got a bit mad and left the call. He privately texted me in a few hours telling me to not dare imply that he's sexist because he thinks that in a perfect world, men wouldn't exist. But for now, he refuses to deny reality. I was even more flabbergasted after this conversation and told him that I'm not buying the act. I honestly don't remember if we played only one session after this or a few. We had a very anticlimactic fight because of real-life time constraints with which the DM was a bit disappointed. And Pete's last session started with us fighting that fight again. In the previous session we escaped, but this one started at the beginning of the fight again. Odds did not look too good in our favor. Characters started going down one by one. And as Pete's character went down, he blew up. He started ranting at the DM for being horrible and on how he's tired of this bullshit. He sent us a waving Pocahontas gif in the chat and left the server. As the last character went down, the DM narrated how we all woke up in the safety of the tavern in a cold sweat. Like that, the spirit of Pete was banished from our game. Monk's wife, who is friends with the DM, did a deep dive into his internet life and found a lot of concerning stuff, like his post that women shouldn't have names and should be called Female 1 and Female 2. His wild fantasies about the, oh boy, something of women, and his struggles to find friends. Gee, I wonder why. Our group kept referencing one of the cringe things out of the long list that I didn't even bother to mention. He did. He would leave the voice chat just to later come back and sit with his mic turned off. I don't know if he was trying to be sneaky or felt insecure, but he would do that over and over again without responding. At least say hi, weirdo. We do this sometimes as a joke and call it pulling a Pete. Okay, wow, I was wrong. And I'm a big enough man to admit when I'm wrong. Pete wasn't a creep. He was Sir Creepy McCreepington, king of all creeps. You know how sometimes someone will have an idea that sounds bad on paper, but in practice it actually works? This is not one of those times. Pete is gross, and I'm glad he left. It makes you wonder if DM did that on purpose just to get rid of him. In any case, I love it when the trash takes itself out. But enough from me. What do you think? I would love to see it in the comments, or just tell me anything. Likes are also appreciated, and if you're new around here, how about sticking around with a sub? Thank you so much for watching, and as always, play your character. Don't let your character play you.